Everybody, and thank you again for signing up and joining me. This is legal information for Vermont librarians and patrons. My name is Sarah Scully, and I am the CLIC coordinator at Vermont Law School. CLIC stands for the Community Legal Information Center, and this is a program that is housed out of the Vermont Law School Library, and we're funded by a grant from the Vermont Department of Libraries. So thank you to the Vermont Department of Libraries for funding this program and for hosting this webinar, and especially to Joy for helping me coordinate this today and for being our behind the scenes technical person. As Joy mentioned, while I'm doing the presentation, I won't be able to see your questions. So if you want to put those into the chat, if they're timely, I'll pause in a few places and Joy can interrupt me. And if they can wait till the end, I'll have time for Q&A at the end of the presentation as well. As I mentioned, this is the Community Legal Information Center, aka CLIC, and our mission is to provide legal information services to all Vermonters. So that includes you as both individuals and as librarians who are also here to serve Vermonters. And so we want to talk today about how you can help your patrons and how you can help them help themselves outside of your library setting. So let's start with a common scenario for legal questions, right? You're working at the desk and someone comes in and they have some kind of legal information need. These are just some sample questions. I'm sure you can think of your own that you've encountered in your own experience. And your question is, how do I help this person, because that's what I'm here to do, without getting entangled into some kind of situation of giving legal advice? How do I address these questions? How do I genuinely help these people and not just say, oh, I can't help you? That's legal advice. And the first temptation might be to draw on our own experience. I know I've been tempted to do this myself. Because we see a legal question before us that we have experience with. You know, maybe we've had a dispute with a neighbor. Maybe we've filed some kind of form, whether it's tax forms, court forms, or other kinds of things. And so we might have some idea or think we have some idea of what to do in this example. And so we start down this pathway of helping this person in a library environment. And maybe we're asking them more questions, we're delving into their problem, we're getting into the details of whatever their question is. And this is where things can get a little bit tricky, because from our perspective, we're just a librarian helping them with any other question they may have had, whether it's a book recommendation or you know, how to research some other topic. But from their perspective, it can very quickly start to look like this, where we're in an attorney-client kind of scenario. And I think it's something that even patrons don't realize, that we can slip into this mode very easily. But of course, we're not their lawyer, right? And I don't think either party, either the librarian or the patron, wants to slip into this situation. For our part, we don't want to give someone bad advice. We don't want to mislead them. We don't want to get into a situation where we told the person something, they go away and come back and say, hey, I lost my court case because, you know, you gave me the wrong information or I didn't fill out the right form. And from their perspective, the patron also doesn't want to be in this scenario because they really do need expert help and we're not that expert. Hopefully we can direct them to that expert help where they need it, or some kind of resource that help them get started. But we don't want to take on the role of being an expert in this situation. So today's presentation is really going to focus on keeping our advice, our help in this realm of the librarian patron kind of context. And how do we do that? I was trying to think of an analogy, and this is what I came up with. I think we need to take the Vanna White approach. So Vanna White, as you know, is on a game show called Wheel of Fortune, and her role on the show is to point out things, right? When a contestant asks for something, she points it out. I'm sure Vanna White is a very intelligent person. Obviously, she has decades of experience being the hostess on Wheel of Fortune, and so she knows how to play the game. She's probably quite good at it, and I'll bet there are many times when she's standing there smiling next to the game board and thinking, I know this phrase, I know the answer to this puzzle, but she doesn't shout it out, right? The contestants ask for something and she points it out, and she lets them work it out in their own way, in their own pace. When they stumble, she just stands by quietly and waits for the next clue to come up and for the person to make their next request. And so that's kind of the role that we need to take as librarians or library staff when we're faced with these legal questions. We can help people, we can point them in the right direction, we can be encouraging, we can applaud when they find something that they needed, but we're not going to shout out the answer. We're not going to give an answer. We're not going to solve the puzzle for them. They have to do that on their own. And so the tool, one of the big tools that I'll go over today is this Librarian Legal Toolkit, which is an online guide that we've prepared here at CLIC. It was actually something that my predecessor began to put together and that I've kind of updated and expanded recently. And I think it's a great resource. This is a good website to bookmark. And if you don't want to write down this whole long URL, I know, Joy, we prepared a handout for you with clickable links in it. And I believe this will also be on the website if you happen to be watching this recorded presentation in the future. These links will be on the website where you found this presentation. So this Librarians Legal Toolkit is really just a guide to many free and easy to use legal resources, and it's something that you as library staff can use. It's also something that you can, hand over to your patrons and let them browse around and find useful information. And if you're not watching this on a large screen, it may be hard to read all the text. These are just screenshots of the guide. So don't worry if you can't read all of the text here. I just wanted to point out some features of this website that I think can help and be some good starting points for you. So the first is the Legal Research Websites tab at the top of the screen when you go to this website. And we start off with free legal information websites that are specific to Vermont. And you see some of those here. In particular, I think the legal research for non-lawyers is a good one. This breaks down the legal research process, how to get started with that, how to break your question or your legal task down into keywords, how to figure out the terminology that lawyers use that might be a little bit different from what lay people use to describe the same situation or idea, and a wealth of information and resources for finding legal information. So that's the non-lawyer guide. That guide's also particularly relevant if you have people who come into your library and are representing themselves on a case. We call these people pro se's. They're representing their own case. They don't have a lawyer that they're working with, and they need to do their own legal research. Another great one, we often get people who come and say, hey, I just need this form. I need to file some kind of a document or a motion or a plea or something like that with the court. How can I find this form? I know the name of the form that I need. Where is it? And all of the forms that folks typically need are on the Vermont Judiciary website. There's also a great self-help center there that has lawyer referrals. It has locations of all the courts and information about common legal tasks, such as traffic violations and that kind of stuff. So the Vermont Judiciary is another great resource there. Another one is the Vermont State Legislature. The state legislature now has all of the current laws of Vermont online. So folks can look at what's on the books now for current law and propose changes to laws that are in the current legislative session. So sometimes we get requests from people who are doing legal research and they want to look at historic laws. And that's back to a certain point in time, the Vermont legislature does also have older laws on their website. And then if they need to go even further back, folks can contact CLIC and we can help them with that kind of historic legal research. Moving on the same page, the web resources on the legal librarian toolkit. We have a couple of other new features, which I'll talk about in just a minute. One of those is that we do lend books now. We have legal self-help titles that you can check out through interlibrary loan and borrow on behalf of your patrons. They just need to be a patron in good standing at your library. And then temporary access to paid legal databases. Again, this is a great resource for people who are representing themselves, or they might be someone like an attorney who's new to this area and is starting up a legal practice, and they need some of the specialized information. This might be enough to get them started until they can join the Bar Association and get access to the legal databases that the Vermont Bar Association provides. So that we'll talk about both of those in more detail, as well as virtual reference appointments. So sometimes you've gone through this guide and you've done your best to help people with the resources that you have, the knowledge that you have. But let's say it's a busy, weekday morning, you've got story hour going on, the phone's ringing, you've got 3 people in line waiting to check out books. And you may not have time to sit down with somebody and listen to their whole story and kind of help them get started. This is a great time that you can refer that person to CLIC. Obviously, we all want to provide as much service as we can to our patrons. We often get to know our patrons very well and have our own personal relationships with them. But sometimes, they sort of get out into the weeds and you need more help for that person that you can't provide at that time. So please, I want to encourage people to hand their patrons off to us. And so back on this Librarians Legal Toolkit page, under Ask a Law Librarian, we kind of outline the services that we provide, and in big type on the left-hand side of this website, we have our phone number and our email address. So that's how people, you can reach out to us using these methods, or you can just direct the patron and they can reach out to us directly. And so what can people get when they come to CLIC? In the darker black text on this page, we have all of the services that we've historically provided. CLIC has been around for about 5 years now. And then in blue, we've added some more services to help expand our offerings during the COVID pandemic. So historically, CLIC has been a self-help and very walk-in focused. Again, we're located in the library in South Royalton. And so patrons who are not affiliated with the law school could come in and do research here and get help on their legal research questions. But unfortunately, because our campus is closed to public access right now, and probably will be for a few more months, we're not able to do that. And so part of my job, I just started in October of 2020, and one of my first responsibilities was figuring out ways we could expand our services since we weren't doing the walk-in help. So we've always been here for members of the public and Vermont librarians, of course, as well as, like I said, lawyers, people who work for the Vermont government, and basically anybody who has a legal research question. We've always provided document delivery when someone knows exactly what they need. So I need this specific form. I want that case. I'd like this particular book chapter. Again, as I'm instructing you to sort of act like Vanna White and just point out resources and let the person do their own legal research, we do the same thing here. Again, because doing legal research on behalf of someone could lead us down the path of providing legal advice without meaning to. But again, if the person knows exactly what they need, then we can get those documents for them. And we've been providing reference help by email and phone and in person. But now we've added video chat. So that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to rolling out. And what I'll be doing is providing 1-hour appointments via Microsoft Teams. And to set up an appointment, folks can email CLIC to do that and get some help with their reference questions. We're also providing that remote access to legal research databases, which I'll give you a little bit more detail on in a second, and the ability, like I said, to borrow legal self-help books through our interlibrary loan program. So they would be borrowing those books through your library. And so we could talk a little bit more about these expanded services. The legal research databases, the big one that people like and are thrilled to learn that CLIC has access to is Westlaw. That is probably the most comprehensive legal research database that's out there on the market. It is very expensive. It costs tens of thousands of dollars per year for a license, which is why most individuals don't have this. Bigger law firms would subscribe to Westlaw, but usually solo practice folks don't. So through Westlaw, folks can now sign up for a very limited trial. It's up to 10 hours of use over a 7-day period. But that can be enough. If they just need a case or two, that can be enough to get them started. There's Fast Case, which is similar to Westlaw. It has all of the same case law in it, as well as statutes and laws, but it does not have a lot of the legal analysis layer that Westlaw provides, so that kind of value-added information. Their license is unlimited access for a week, so instead of the 10 hours, you get more time than that. And they are very flexible. They'll allow me to extend those trial periods for people. So we can talk about that more in detail if that's of interest, but just know that we can extend that time period if someone has a legal research project that they're working on. And then Hide Online is a specialized legal database, and that is not available for individuals to make their own account. But what they can do is book one of these video reference appointments with me, and I can, through screen sharing, give them access to Hide Online, and then they can do their research that way. So like I said, we also do this loan of legal self-help books, and I'll give you some examples in a minute. And any public library in Vermont is going to be automatically able to do this. I don't know if anyone had used ILL in the past. I know it had been done sort of on a limited basis, but I'm trying to promote this more. And all you have to do to request a book through that service is to send an email to us, click@vermontlaw.edu, and I'll mail you the book via the US mail, and then you can send it back when they're done. And then, like I said, these video reference appointments. Now, people do not have to have a Teams account to use Microsoft Teams. I can create an invitation, and then they can just accept that and log on with me. And again, those can be done by email, and the patron can send us a request for that directly. They don't need to go through you. And we can look at Hide Online, we can look at general search strategies. I can help them with Fast Case or Westlaw if they're not familiar with those databases or don't know how to use those tools. I would also encourage all of you as library staff to book a reference appointment with me if you're interested in learning more about sort of general legal research tips beyond this presentation. If you want to get some hands-on practice, that would be a great way to do it. We could also discuss things like maybe you want to build some sort of website or guide for your patrons that's tailored to their needs. We could talk about what resources might be good for that. Or if you want to build a small collection of legal books at your library, I'd be happy to talk to you about that as well. Any questions at this point, Joy? I'm gonna take a sip of water.
No.
Okay.
A few technology questions, but everything else is good.
Great. All right, so I keep mentioning these legal self-help books, and you know, there are pros and cons to these. We have quite a few, probably over 300 titles. These are some of the main subject types and kind of common legal problems that people might want a little bit of guidance on. Now, the books are great at giving you kind of an overview of the legal task or the legal problem that you might be looking at, and giving you things like the terminology that might be associated with this topic. They can give you maybe lists of questions to ask a lawyer or to ask other professionals that you might be dealing with. They give you checklists for how to do certain types of processes or to work your way through a legal process step by step. What they don't give you is very Vermont specific information, because these books are written from the perspective of national US law. So they'll give you examples, but those examples might be for, you know, oh, in Chicago, you know, they do it this way, and in Texas, they do it that way. So they'll give you examples, they'll give you an overview, they'll give you some things to look for and some ideas to get you started, and kind of an outline of how certain legal processes usually unfold. But they won't give you a lot of very detailed information about, okay, if you're in this specific legal situation, the first step you need to do is this, and the second step you need to do is that. But to get started, or for, you know, for people who are competent or who want to represent themselves, this might be a great place, just so that they can give that big picture and help make sure that they're not missing like a whole category of important information. And then just an overview of kind of our service model right now. The CLIC coordinator position, my job is a half-time position, and we are 100% remote until our building reopens. So sometimes I'm working from the library, sometimes I'm working from home, but either way, I'm typically available weekday afternoons. Email is the very best way to reach us. And again, that's CLIC, C-L-I-C, at vermontlaw.edu. I try to respond faster than 24 hours, although sometimes it's a 24-hour turnaround if I have to do research on somebody's question before I can answer. We do also have an Ask a Law Librarian phone line, and that number's on your screen. Again, it'll also be in the handout. That phone line is not staffed, so it's not a line that rings that I can pick up. It is voicemail only. But for folks who don't use email or don't want to use email, or just prefer to talk to me by phone, you can call, leave a detailed message and a return phone number, and I'll call you back the next time I'm in the office. So there can be a lag there because I don't call people back from my personal phone. So all of that said, all of those resources that I just gave you, sometimes somebody just gets into the weeds and they just need a lawyer. That's the bottom line. So what can you do for those folks? Well, we do have a Find a Lawyer tab on this Librarians Legal Toolkit page. And I'm going to talk about one of these resources in depth, but there's a few suggestions here to get started. And there's a lot of information and support throughout the state, especially for lower income folks who may be the people that are showing up at the library asking legal questions rather than, you know, having a lawyer that they can call. Right? If they had a lot of money and they already had a lawyer that they had a relationship with, they could just call their lawyer. But instead, they're in their library, you know, asking you these questions. So I wanted to mention some ways to refer people and help people find a lawyer if they need one. So that resource I wanted to talk about is linked from the website. And this is a separate web page called Civil Legal Resources by County. It's broken down by county in Vermont. You'll see at the top of this slide, we have all of the Vermont counties listed. And so if you were on this live web page, you would just click on the county where the patron lives to get started and to see the legal resources available in their area. And here's an example. I believe this is the Chittenden County page. So you can see it lists on the left the type of legal issue that the organization can help with, the organization's name, and then contact information. So it's not fancy, but it's meant to be a quick reference directory for somebody who knows that they need some legal help and they just need a good referral. So hopefully this is helpful to you as well. Now on this legal resources by county website, this information is organized in a table at the top of the page. And then if you scroll down on each of these pages, you'll get a flow chart, which is the same information embedded, but in a sort of decision tree. This may or may not be helpful depending on the situation, but it's there and I wanted to point it out. And a nice little benefit is if you print this website double-sided, it should print out on a single sheet of paper on 2 sides. So that's a quick and easy way to have a physical thing that you can hand to your patron and say, here you go, here's some phone numbers, try this to start
Sarah,
out with.
can you pause just a second? There's April has her hand up.
Oh, sure. Hi, April. You can either type your question or speak if you'd like.
Oh, never mind. Her mouse went rogue.
Oh,
but
okay.
Considering she's our reference librarian, I thought it might be something that was relevant in both rather than at the end. So, all right, thank you.
That's fine. So just to wrap up, some reminders and some kind of key points to take away if you take away nothing else from this presentation, in terms of dealing with people and their legal problems, right? So of course we want to be compassionate and we want to listen to their story. Often people come in with legal questions and they're in the middle of some kind of legal crisis and they really just need an ear. They need somebody to calmly listen to their story and make them feel heard, right? Even if there's not much you can do. And I encourage you not to take on personal responsibility for the details of their story, but just letting them get it out and maybe even handing them a pad of paper and having them write it down. So that they can organize their thoughts and start to collect the information that they need in order to pursue whatever issue they need to pursue. Focus on resources and not answers when you're dealing with people. So you want to look for either resources in the form of other people you can refer them to, or websites or databases or legal textbooks. Whatever resource contains information about the legal topic that they're interested in. But again, you're not responsible for solving the puzzle. You're not responsible for coming up with the answer to their problem. Help them navigate. Often legal resources are confusing and overwhelming. And so helping them figure out what information is in front of them and how to navigate to more detail, how to navigate to information that includes the keywords that they've identified as being important is really helpful. And of course, making great referrals, whether that's within the legal realm and helping them find a lawyer, or maybe it's referring them to some kind of social service like Vermont 211 or to the town office if you think the town office might be able to help them, or the public service board or whoever it is that might deal in a more expert manner with the legal question that this person has. Flash my image credits and be a good librarian here and say thank you. And I will take your questions now. And I'm going to get out of my presentation and stop sharing my screen if I can figure out how to do that.
At this point, feel free to use the hand raising feature and we will call on you. And you can also use the chat if you have questions you want to put in there.
Does anyone have any questions?
Sarah, I'm not sure if you're seeing the chat.
I am. So would legal
Okay.
reference be just a general guide? I'm not sure I quite understand. In general, legal reference, yes. I mean, that's, again, it's the point and smile approach. You do want to try to get people as specific as possible, right? So if they say, okay, I'm going through a divorce, you know, can you help me? You're not just going to say, here's the whole internet, you know, good luck. But if you have a book, you know, with the word divorce in the title, that might be a good place to start. Or, you know, maybe you help them figure out, okay, you know, let's list keywords based on your story, right? You're going through this situation. Okay, your neighbor's dog did something and this, that, and the other thing. Okay, well, you got neighbor, you've got dog, you've got property boundaries. You can help them kind of identify the keywords in their situation and then show them how to plug those keywords into some kind of database or website to search those things. And yeah, Gail, maybe you want to hop on audio if you're comfortable. Just tell me a little bit more. I'm not sure I'm quite understanding your question.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, I'm a little confused myself. So I sometimes have patrons just call, I think they might be students actually, just asking for general law books. And so I'm assuming I can send them to this website to sort of search around for things. And I guess that the reason I'm not being clear is because when you were sharing your screen, you showed different, oops, excuse me.
It's
Sorry.
okay.
Turn off. Hold on. You showed different titles. I can't even think now. And one was reference guide or reference questions or reference law or legal reference.
Oh, right. So legal reference, in that case, all of my guides fall under legal reference, right? That's what we're doing. So that's just a general term for helping people with their legal questions.
So I guess my question is, if they clicked on that link, what would they come to?
Those guides that I was showing you, the pages that I was showing you. And they would see those, and then they would see links to things like the Vermont Judiciary or the court forms or information about how to search Google Scholar, that kind of thing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did that help? And yeah, it's tricky when people come in and go, do you have any books on law? It's like, what law? Which laws? You know, laws about what? So that's where having that conversation and helping them kind of write down their keywords and figuring out exactly what their legal task is. You know, okay, oh, well, I want to write a will. Oh, okay, well, you need estate planning. So let's look for a book about estate planning or some kind of online resource for, you know, Vermont laws about estate planning, something like that. You can help them identify, you know, correlate what they're talking about with what the legal term is. Some folks are typing. Any other questions? Yeah, thank you, Joy. I know in other reference scenarios, you know, if somebody comes in and they want a book, right? You want them to leave with a book. So you do want to specifically answer their question in that way. But with the law, it's just tricky because everybody's problem, even though it might sound simple and easy, it rarely is. So that's where we have to be a little bit careful and kind of give people the tools they need to answer their own questions rather than trying to find those answers for them.
Yeah, I was thinking about the unpacking of the question is similar to other types of reference interviews. Yeah, obviously you have to be more careful about, you know, not giving legal advice, which you normally wouldn't have to worry about. But if someone starts with a really general question, like I need a book on law, just kind of like figuring out what they're really asking you.
Exactly. All right, well, I'll give another second for questions, but if there aren't, I won't force everybody to stay here, I'll just say thank you again to Joy and to the staff at the Vermont Department of Libraries for facilitating this. Do feel free, again, Joy will send out the handout with the contact and the hours and things, and you can get a hold of me. And I would love to meet with you or others on your staff if it's helpful, and discuss, the ways that your library interacts with patrons with legal questions and any kind of resources that might be helpful to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I have put an evaluation link in the chat, so if you could fill that out for us, that would be very helpful. And if anyone has any other last questions, now's the time. I know I found this very helpful. I was always kind of at a loss when I worked in a public library and got questions like this. And I knew that CLIC existed, I guess, but I didn't really know what it was. So I'm sure other people might have those feelings too. So thank you so much for this information. It's very helpful, very practical.
Good. I'm very glad. All right, everyone. Well, I don't see any other questions, so I'll just say thank you, and do get in touch.